Hello and welcome to France 2012. Game on. On Wednesday night, Nicolas Sarkozy finally said yes. Yes, he will indeed run for re-election. He now has 66 days to regain a lot of ground on socialist favorite François Hollande. Will his official announcement provide the much-needed boost? How will the opposition respond? To answer those questions, our two usual suspects, Jean-Marc Gonin with Le Figaro magazine and Philippe Turle from Radio France Internationale. So for weeks, the Sarkozy camp had everyone guessing when and how will the president announce his candidacy. After much talk of a surprise, he kept it very simple by inviting himself on the main newscast Wednesday night. Let's take a listen to the president and to the reaction of his opponent, François Hollande.
Yes, I'm a candidate in the presidential election. Considering the situation in France, in Europe and other parts of the world, with this unprecedented crisis, or actually a series of unprecedented crises, if I did not ask the French to renew this contract between us, it'd be like abandoning them. Could you imagine a captain with his ship caught in the middle of a storm announce that he's tired and that it's over?
You might have heard today's big news. Or maybe you haven't. The president as candidate is now the candidate as president. What a piece of news! This is overwhelming. Truly a novelty. But I'm going to tell you a secret. I knew it was going to happen.
The stage is set with some humor on behalf of François Hollande. Jean-Marc Gonin, will this change the dynamics?
Well, it will indeed, because, of course, Nicolas Sarkozy has entered the campaign long ago. I would say his New Year's speech, Best Wishes to the Nation, were already a kind of declaration. He was a player already, and he has ever since he's been competing in the race, but without saying it. Now it is official. Now the party's money will come into the game, because since then from in the last week he was campaigning as a president with taxpayers' money. This time it will be his own party's money. It's a different game, and well, he has set a kind of tone. Saying, I'm the captain, I want to stay at the helm, I want to drive the ship. He was very tense. You could feel that his speech, he was playing a very important card. He knew that the rhythm, the dynamics, as you said, a new set is starting, as in a tennis game. But regarding the ideas, he fell short of announcing something very new.
Right, he didn't announce anything specific. However, there was a change clearly in recent weeks in terms of the timing. He had indicated that he would declare himself as late as possible, that being mid-March, but obviously there was a change of plan.
Well, in the past, the incumbent president has always had it in their interest to declare their candidacy as late as possible. The limit this time would have been the 16th of March, which is when the 500 signatures that each candidate needs to run in the election have to be handed in to the Constitutional Council. So he could have waited until then, but the problem is he's very low in the opinion polls, and there's this growing pressure that he really ought to make a decision and announce he's going to run. And what might have happened if he'd waited any longer, which I think he would have liked to have done had he had the real chance, was that the campaign would have got underway without him, and that would have been even more bad news for Sarkozy. So he's waited as long as possible. 15th of February was the day that I think he thought, well, I've got to do it, I've got to go and get involved because François Hollande is very popular, I need to fight back. But as Jean-Marc was saying, it's not going to be easy for him because he's got a lot of lost ground to make up, and the longer he would have left it, the harder it would have been for him to make up that lost ground.
Yes, also he felt that he's a better candidate than he's a good president. So the sooner the better. Suddenly his entourage said, you got to be the candidate.
He said actually yesterday that he was relieved, in a way, to jump in.
He was relieved because he loves it. He's been opposing Chirac very harshly when they were together in the same cabinet, but on the other hand, he's very like Chirac in the sense that he's at his best when he's running around, campaigning, talking to people, meeting people. Sarkozy has had a tremendous difficulty in the last 5 years to really inhabit the function of President of the Republic, which is, as you know, in this country, a kind of monarch. And he has a bit damaged the function because he loves to be very direct, very blunt in his speeches, and that suits more a candidate than a statesman.
Right. In terms of the strategy, what do you think? I mean, he's holding a campaign rally, the first one today. The others will follow. He gave an interview where he seemed to steer towards the right, or some would even say the far right. What do you think Nicolas Sarkozy is up to?
Well, the big problem facing Sarkozy is that he is already president, and he's been president for 5 years. And there's not much good news for him to come up with to say, well, this is what I've achieved over 5 years, and this is why you should vote for me again. Unemployment is the big problem, and unemployment is constantly rising in this country. There's been a boost in growth, which is good news for the president, but at the same time, unemployment is still rising. So that's very bad news, and that's the great concern. So people are saying, well, why haven't you done something already? You come up with these policies now, and you've been president already for 5 years. Well, you should have done that.
It's because of all the crisis.
So he's saying the crisis is concerned. People are not believing him, I think, 100%, saying, well, OK, the crisis is one of the reasons, but you have been president for a long time and you could have done more, so therefore, what are you going to do in the next 5 years? And that's where he's having a problem. So that explains, in a way, why he's moving towards this posture now of being the candidate who's going to stand up for what he's saying of values in France. We're going to make France a place where people are given jobs properly, where people are made to work, where people are made to have training, where we are going to spend money in the right areas, which is what we haven't been doing, but we're going to, we've already overhauled the retirement system, for example. Now we're going to move forward. We're going to make it a country which is going to stand up for fighting against illegal immigration, all sorts of things that are values that will appeal to the more right-wing section of society, which he thinks are the ones who are going to elect him this time round, again, as it did in 2007. Problem is that in 2007 he wasn't president. He had all these pledges. People said, OK, we'll elect you, do them. This is 5 years later. Those pledges haven't been bought in, and people are saying, well, why should we elect you again when you could have done that already in the last 5 years?
Well, I think values are a good product when you have no program. It's very difficult to have a program. Yeah, that's what he's doing, and that might be a good way to enter that campaign, I think, for him. He is also dramatizing the situation, saying, I won't lift ship when we are getting into a storm. So he wants to play the very energetic president who is the man, the right man in difficult times. And you can at least believe in one feature of his, that is untiring energy. This man can work and be everywhere. Sometimes you have the impression you have several Sarkozys, because you see him all over the place, in France, in the Élysée, somewhere talking to people. And he plays that, saying, we are going to have a tough time, and I can handle that. And remember, what he's been talking about welfare state and this, and he says we won't keep this the way it is today. And he is splitting the opinion, because the left is saying we have to protect this. He says France will protect its citizens. France is a shield, but he hints at the fact that welfare state won't be the same in the coming years.
Right. He unveiled also a campaign slogan, which would translate as a strong France. And yesterday in the interview he hinted, well, do you want a weak France? Meaning that if François Hollande is chosen, France will be weaker than if he is still at the helm.
All the way down the line, since François Hollande became the Socialist Party candidate, the right wing has underestimated his ability to become a popular candidate and to come up with ideas.
That's still the case.
Which is still the case now. And at the beginning, if you remember, we've talked about this quite a few times on this programme, about how the right had attacked François Hollande, the socialist candidate, and said he's too soft. They all called him flambé or something like that, which is a derogatory term to mean someone who's a bit overweight and not very powerful and too soft-willed. The contrary has been the case. So now they're saying, OK, well, let's come up with a it's not a particularly original sentence, which is the least you can say, like, OK, this will be strong France. Well, it's a direct attack on the socialists again, saying, well, if you vote for us, it will be strong, and if you vote for the socialists, well, it will be weak, like its leader. But not a lot of people, I think, really believe that anymore.
Well, the socialists will have a problem, I think. Hollande has proven, I agree with you, Hollande has proven that he's a good candidate, that he's able, he has proven his ability to lead the country. No doubt, he's good in campaigning since in the last 3-4 weeks. He's been an excellent campaigner. But, you know, French know also who is the Socialist Party, who are the socialists, and they might fear that they won't be tough enough in the coming times because they have clienteles, they have engagements with a lot of a special interest, and they won't be able to reform the country as swiftly as it needs to be.
One thing that Nicolas Sarkozy has put on the table yesterday in his interview, but already in his previous interview where he kind of laid out his campaign, is the referendum, the tool of the referendum, which he has never used during his mandate, and now he's saying we might use it when everything is blocked, when the elite, the political elite, is not deciding, for example, on how to compensate the unemployed. Is this a strategy that can work?
It's a strategy. I'm not sure it's going to work. I don't actually think there will be a referendum on that question about whether or not unemployed people should go and have training or receive unemployment benefit, because you have to remember you have to ask a fairly simple question with an answer like yes or no, and this is a very, very complex issue. So to actually come up with a referendum question like that is going to be very complicated. People are again saying, okay, well, you're going to propose a referendum. Why didn't you hold a referendum already over the past 5 years? You talked about it in 2007. We haven't had any. This is Sarkozy again in one of his many different forms, which is a rather Bonapartist way of behaving, because in France there are
populists, you would say.
Yeah, because in France you have a government, you have commissions who are set up to investigate this kind of thing and make recommendations to the president, who will then go ahead and introduce legislation or overhaul different bodies. You don't ask the population to ask what they think about issues such as giving social security payments to unemployed people or giving them training.
What's the message?
So the message is, when I'm in charge, I'm going to go directly to the people. I will bypass everybody else, and I will consult uniquely with the population. It'll be between me and them, and everybody else will be moved out of the way.
Well, it's a pretty populist message. It's Bonapartist. It is. He said in his speech that on television that he doesn't want to leave these big reforms to people who know each other and who handle it between themselves. And that's the message for the people. I think is very negative and dangerous in a democracy. It's really where he's playing with the far-right ideas. I'll give you back the power I have, and we bypass all the constituencies, the trade unions, the parliament itself. And I think it's a very dangerous method in a republic like ours. And but he's decided to play that card. Which means all these people, they cheat you. I am the sincere one, and I'll give you back the power you want.
You have to remember that if he does do a referendum, or holds a referendum, and he in favour of a particular subject, and the answer is no, that's going to severely undermine him and weaken his position as a president if he's re-elected.
Thank you very much to both of you, and thank you for watching this edition of France 2012 here on France 24. We'll see you next week.